So I think we have a very nice set of folks here. So I will start with maybe a quick round of introduction, not spend too much time, but like what's your function is in each one of your industry. So I can start myself. My name is Suman. I lead the data science team at DocuSign, and my team kind of go from machine learning to AI agent, the entire spectrum, working across various organizations.
I am Ajinkya, head of AI at Remitly. Manage both traditional ML applications, infrastructure, and the same for GenAI, Agentic AI applications and infrastructure, experimentation and metrics platforms, and also responsible for AI governance.
All right, so COA here. I lead AI and the data science analytics at Coinbase. So this is a new org. We recently put AI next to some of the data functions.
I'm Yogesh. I lead the discovery analytics for all of Walmart, which includes personalization and many of the AI models underneath the hoods.
Yeah, I am Ilan Panneerselvam. I'm SVP, Head of Data and Analytics for CardWorks. So for us, what I do is my responsibility is across modernizing the data platform right now, including AI.
Hello, everyone. My name is Suresh Tekchandani. I lead product and engineering at Ancestry. I had their e-commerce, MarTech, end-to-end customer experience, and quite a bit of infrastructure in the backend, such as experimentation and such.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. So let's get to sort of a warm-up question. How do you think about AI agent and a genuinely agentic system? Is there a distinction? I know there are a lot of terms that comes our way every day. How do you think about that? So maybe we start from you.
Yeah, so when you think about agentic, I mean, there's like two flavors, right? We're talking Gen AI, and what we've been talking about this morning is the agents, right? That can do independent functions and all that. So Gen AI, the way I have internalized is, as the name suggests, you are generating content. There's like chat experiences, recommendation systems, right? So those are like more reactive, right? As opposed to agents that can actually perform a highly complex process for you, coordinating or orchestrating across multiple systems, employing different tactics to use different tools to achieve certain outcomes, and things like that. So that's sort of the distinction between the two in my mind.
In my thoughts, the simple way to put the AI agent is the predefined tasks. You are running a predefined task, right? So, but Agentic is orchestration layer. It's a planning, governing, and outcome. It's feedbacking to this and then executing it again. So I think that's what, in my simple terms, Agentic versus agents.
Yeah, plus one to everything what they said. But when I look at agentic systems, I look at something which has evaluation. How do we recover from the failure ecosystem, like failure use cases and things like that. So there has to be a little bit more guardrails around how it works from an end-to-end customer standpoint. But typically when I see agentic systems, it's a combination of a bunch of agents having different tasks and different objectives in mind.
Yes, I think for me, I think the core difference is maybe an isolated intelligent entity versus an orchestrated ecosystem. Right, so I think the analogy is obviously an individual versus a team. I think the key sort of choice here is whether you're trying to build a smarter kind of agent by itself, or you want to actually invest in this infrastructure such that multiple agents can kind of work together, collaborate in a reliable way.
Yeah, I think mostly it's covered, but so the way I think about agents is the ability to plan, the ability to reason, and the ability to act. Going from agent to production, enterprise, agentic system, I think there are a few prerequisites or components that I would look for. I think observability is key, understanding what actions the agent is taking, how it's reasoning, evaluations, clear evaluation rubric, golden data sets to measure the performance against, and some feedback loops to either maintain or improve performance over time. Finally, guardrails to ensure that the agentic system is acting in accordance with the enterprise policy.
Great, great. Yeah, I think I agree with everybody here. You know, the governance and the observability, these are becoming the front and center as we move into the maturity curve of the AI agent systems. So we'll come back to the monitoring and maturity in a bit. But in your mind, agents are becoming an ubiquity across different enterprise functions. So can you imagine one functions where you are seeing agents making inroads and really having business impact? And then a follow-up question there would be, are you already seeing a function where it's really hard for agents to do anything at this point or even in the near future, and it will just stay more human-led? So kind of two ends of the spectrum. I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I think the operational service workflows and internal enterprise support functions will look very different, dramatically different in a few short years, because agentic systems are really good at trying to orchestrate, as I was saying earlier, complex tasks or processes across multiple systems. It can retain user context, figure out what tools to use, and achieve your broader outcome, right? But the areas involving high ambiguity, right? Areas that involve ethics, trust, and nuanced judgment, right? Those kinds of areas. And I'll give an example like, leadership, people management, strategic decision making. Those kinds of areas, I think, will still require humans at the center.
Yeah, I think I agree with Suresh, right? So, but I think the question is, it's a great question, but we want to replace everything with agentic AI. That's where we are going, I guess, right? But as you said, we cannot replace everything. So one example I can think of is financial reporting, especially the closing of the business. I'm from a finance background. The company is finance. So think about closing the business. It takes a lot of time today. Like some banks does it business day 3, business day 5. Some of them go second week or third week of. I'm thinking those processes can be squeezed. Maybe it'll be done in like few hours. Those kind of processes I'm thinking can be replaced with agentic AI. I think as Suresh mentioned, it's high ambiguity trust. Where think about the M&As, like business M&As. Maybe that's one of the examples. It's highly difficult to make a decision. There will be a future CEO agent can make a decision. But as of now, I don't think so. I can think about the M&As can be decided by the agents yet.
Yeah, again, I agree with everything what they said. On top of it, if I had to add onto what I see from the vantage point of e-commerce, I do see that the entire shopping experience is going to change. Like we will see a world where people will explicitly say what I'm trying to do, and then the shopping experience will look like entirely a new set of experiences where it will talk about what products you need for a meal or for any particular task, or even for things like, okay, you are going for back to school, what should your basket look like, things like that. So many of these experiences are going to change leaps and bounds. While in certain instances, like I see closing of a deal, pricing of a product, especially on the enterprise side of the house, which needs, again, a lot of strategic conversation and ambiguity from a business standpoint. Those things, it's very hard for an agent to solve for. And it's also sort of one-off. The kind of efficiency gain you will get is pretty minimal.
So I have a slightly different take than some of the gentlemen here. I think what will definitely change, if it's not already happening, is actually the management itself. So by this, I mean managers of any level across all different functional groups. The way they run their team, they run their organization or the entire company, I think that practice just has to be really agentified, or just being more AI native. Just think about how you run your one-on-ones these days, right? Are you still expecting the person you're meeting to come up with the agenda? Or are you still manually writing down the agenda? How do you track OKRs? When something is actually at risk, how do you find out what's going on? Are you going to ask your VP, ask your director, ask a person, or do you want an agent to actually pull the information for you from GitHub, from all these other systems? So if everything is still manual, I think in a way, you're already late. So happy to share what we're doing at Coinbase. We literally have a desktop app built called Chief of Staff that actually helps manage your day-to-day work, daily briefing, your priorities today. Or, it also helps you look into, the decisions that are waiting on you, like the inputs you need to give, so on and so forth. Yeah, so I do think it's changing already. I'm not saying humans are not needed. I think humans are definitely needed, but just how we actually practice the art of managing is going to be very different.
Yeah, I think totally agree. I think the entire operational model within the company for us is changing, and I see that happening across the industry as well. But set of concrete use cases that I would mention, we are regulated fintech. There are a number of processes that are highly manual right now. So we do KYC checks, we do anti-money laundering checks, we do sanction screening, we do enhanced due diligence. There's probably a dozen or so of these processes with hundreds of people manually reviewing these. I think we are in the process of breaking these down into individual components that lend themselves to automation or agentic actions, and then basically create that infrastructure to be able to scale these processes without necessarily scaling the headcount. And then, yeah, in terms of, I think the distinction here is that there is a huge amount of history that we can leverage on how these decisions have been taken in the past. At the same time, there are a lot of decisions that are relatively rare, like where to open a new office, how to respond to a security breach, how do I respond to this new regulation. I don't see agentic systems or AI agents automating that anytime in the near future.
That's a great discussion. We were also seeing something similar at DocuSign. Like I can give you one example where an agentic system is driving real business value. That is we are calling it automated SDR. So this is the customer first touch of the sales process. We get millions of leads. It's not possible by humans even before to cater to all these leads. So now we have a 24/7 agentic system running. It will send the email, personalized email. The customer respond. It can give some vanilla responses or triage to the human sales rep. So that's a clear business value we are seeing. And the places where more process heavy or human judgment is needed, obviously their agents are more assisting and not automating. A great example is, I think every PM these days just use Google Gemini and write PRDs and not start from the scratch. So the actual PRD process has shrunk quite a bit. So that's a real productivity gain. But can we automate it? No. So great discussion. Thanks, everyone. Next, we want to kind of look into, as we think about this AI agent or agentic system making more inroads to various workflows, how is any of these agentic system is going from a roadmap item to an active deployment? So what is that process looks like? And what I meant by that is there is a human component of it. Like we have always done business in a certain way. We are not going to change it. So there is that. And personally, I feel technology is easy to handle. So yeah, would love to get that take.
Sure, so I can go first. So for us, the trigger really was the realization that some of the static workflows that we had would not be able to keep up with our needs around personalization and bringing more efficiencies in how we process content. Because as you guys know, Ancestry provides lots and lots of records to our customers. They build family trees. They rely on the information that we provide to them. So, and that all like that experience is expected to be highly personalized right from the get-go, right from the point of discovery all the way, to become sort of a paying customer and everything in between. So that was the moment where we recognized, hey, these workflows are not going to help us scale and meet the needs of our growing business. So what we did was we went back and we started to embed AI into some of our decisioning systems that would really power the experience for the customers in a very dramatic way. It would, figure out based on the user context, behavior signals, all that information that's coming real time, what should be the next best action for the customer, right, to take to be able to, advance their journey with us, right? Be it the external customer experience or even internally, we have people who are processing the massive amounts of content that we're acquiring through, different agencies, government offices around the globe. And all that data needs to be processed, digitalized, so that we can present to the customers in a way that they could understand and consume, so it makes sense. And AI stories and others piece of work that we did that has seen just amazing results and outcomes. So I think put it all together, the important point here that I want to highlight is we approached AI process as a bounded orchestration as opposed to unconstrained, autonomous process, just go do stuff. And this way, very pleased to say that we were able to leverage the power of AI with adequate governance and human oversight, while still keeping things safe for our customers, and also move the metrics such as conversion engagement in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is great. What Suresh was talking about. In our use case, if you think about it as a finance company, I said, we cannot just like that use it because there is a lot of regulatory, a lot of governance in the aspect of when you are thinking about it. So it's not about AI ready. It's not about, oh, AI is there, use it. It's about using the use case, what value you can bring in, right? So the way we are deploying it today is, okay, there is a manual, or whatever the current process today as a reporting, as is mentioned earlier, okay, there is a human doing that reporting today. Some of them automated. Okay, how I can use agent to do the same reporting for some time, right? It's like your agent can do it in like 2 hours, but human is going to take like 2 days to do the reporting, reconciliation, all the usual things that you do, but agents doing it very quickly. We have done this for some time, making sure nothing is breaking. Even the agent is, okay, the data, hallucination, all those, even though you have the RAG and all those things, right? We make sure things, approval, governance, but still there is a human in the loop to deploy this into production. That's the way we are going about it. We are still early in this journey. We haven't done a lot of deployment yet.
Yeah, so I would say my observation till now has been there are parts of the organization which consumes data, uses it in the traditional machine learning model world, right? They know how to use data in a production environment. For them, adopting AI is relatively much of a lower lift comparison to that of other parts of the organization where they know the problem statement, but when they look at like the data and the pieces which are needed to build an AI ecosystem, they may not necessarily have that familiarity or like the know-how of how do we connect all of these dots together. So between these two pieces, I think the places where there were machine learning models, there were some sophistication in terms of data usage. Those are the places where AI adoption is really picking up fast. Right into the production ecosystem, we are making good traction both from ROI standpoint as well as from an adoption standpoint. But in places where people are still trying to like figure out how do we ingest AI into a net new process where there is no models, data is still not that robust, or there are a lot of compliance, regulatory related issues. Like all of those places, I think the adoption is a little, like I would say, not on par with most of the other places.
Okay, so maybe some thoughts to share here. Two inflection points in our journey. One is like, in addition to some of the most common flows like CX, we actually picked some domains where very niche kind of domain expertise used to be needed. Now, something that's core to our business is obviously handling the blockchains. We support 60 plus blockchains. Every quarter we have to deal with 500 plus upgrades. Right? Again, think about this. It's a very niche domain. It's probably only relevant for crypto companies, but yet the amount of grungy operational work is just crazy. I remember we used to have to scale up the team based on the number of chains we support. Even though this is a niche domain, you probably don't even think there's good kind of human judgment a lot of times. It just happens to be a problem that's very suitable for large language models. And the results were just amazing. So that was actually one inflection point. We started late 2024. We got things in production by Q2 2025. And that actually just pushed the entire company to think if the blockchain upgrades can be agentified, right? Think about your own kind of workflow. It's usually more traditional. It's usually having a better sort of kind of golden data or or subject matter expertise. And then we saw the entire company, not just engineering, kind of getting into using agents, using multi-agent systems to automate their workflows. So and then came the second inflection point, which was as the non-engineers are starting to do it, their demand for cutting edge AI tools just really skyrocketed, right? So earlier this year, when the Cloud family, when that harness became just so good, now we are seeing non-developers, non-engineers in the company trying to get onto the engineering tools. And it leads to other problems, right? Do you allow everybody to deploy production code, right, through GitHub, through command line, right? One is how to make them usable. The other one is how to actually ensure there's enough safety checks, so on and so forth. Yeah, so those are the two inflection points.
Yeah, I think we've generally taken a crawl, walk, run approach to almost every new rollout with these generative AI models. So one specific example I take is we've had our customer service part leveraging Gen AI models for the past couple of years. So this has been something that we have hardened over time with the right kind of guardrails and evaluations in place. We've seen that the response times are faster for the cases that the AI customer service agent handles. The CSAT scores are about on par, and very few of these actually get escalated to human agents. So having built a lot of that experience into a customer-facing use case, we recently launched a WhatsApp send feature where the agent can actually complete the transaction for you without ever having to leave WhatsApp, without having to log into the app. So yeah, that does fundamentally open up a new operating surface for us while still leveraging some of the infrastructure that we have built throughout the years.
Yeah, I think, thanks everyone for the great discussion, by the way. Yeah, so we have also seen something similar, if I want to summarize all of our experiences, a workflow that is highly repetitive and requires a lot of humans is ready to get disrupted by AI agent, right, specifically. On the other hand, if a workflow is too complex and too regulated, requires a lot of a judgment and all, there I think it becomes more assisted, and that's what you were referring to, bounded, right? So great. Just switching gear a little bit. Continuous improvement has become a buzz term for the last 1 or 2 months. I think there are a couple of latest YC batch startups coming out based on just that idea. And this is becoming important for a reason, as all of these AI agents are maturing in the production system, now we have to think about monitoring and improving them. So what does that look like for all of us? I would start with you.
Yeah, so I would say the continuous improvement requires feedback loops pretty much at all levels of your architecture, top down, right, including customer outcomes. You're talking about, operational and some of the details that you're collecting, like behavior signals that we talked about earlier, to the governance and policy enforcement, right? So all of those things would require a very strong kind of feedback loops. And now, having said that, there is one mistake I've seen based on my conversations around in such forums is when I hear from other leaders, right? I mean, I've seen this pattern where some of the organizations, allow sort of this unconstrained self-learning taking place in their live production systems. And, so my take is that in any enterprise environment, when you have feedback loops, as I just articulated, those have to have very clear governance boundaries, eval frameworks, like evaluation frameworks, and human oversight. Otherwise, you're looking at unintended consequences that's going to hurt the business at some point, and not just your brand, right? But we'd love to hear from others here as well.
If we're going to have time for a Q&A, we will need to get to questions in just a minute. So we'll give a minute for anyone else who wants to jump in, and then we'll do a little Q&A real quick.
Sounds good.
I agree with his thoughts as well, right? The governance is the key for continuous improvement. We always need the continuous improvement, but in an agentic world, how you can get that feedback is the real feedback, going into the system, learning, and then creating based on the actions, how you can do it. The governance is the key here. So that's the governance is the key for us, how we can feedback loop is. I think I know that we are out of time, so.
Yeah, we can probably, sorry, we are running out of time.
All right, so we have a question right here.
Thanks, everybody. Fantastic discussion. So I'm actually, little bit of, I'll ask some question which is completely off the rail. But I want all of your views around that. So we are into a revolution of LLM and then agentic and those kind of stuff, right? But somehow, bottom of my heart, I feel like this need is fabricated and generated. Something came out from the lab, then GPU market actually is like, NVIDIA is making a lot of money, and there's all hyperscalers are pushing those models and coming up new tools, and then they're trying to use those tools. Now, every board of directors are asking their CEOs that, what are we doing with AI? Are we not doing anything? Then our stock price will go down. And that CEOs are pushing that to all their subordinates. So are you guys also, have you thought about this? I felt like all these things we are doing, we're justifying our actions. Like a lot of places we have to train people, we have to convince people what we are doing is right, and that is what exactly was needed, right? And we are solving that with AI agents. And we are spending a lot of money on the tokens, and that is also having an impact on the environment, right? How are we justifying all these things? Are we just following the trend, or is it really improving something on humankind?
Yeah, I can go in. I think this is a great question, right? So yes, especially as you said, they are pushing us. You have to use it, otherwise you are out of the market, right? That's the way we think. That's what I said. It's not about AI ready. It's about your use case and the value, what you can bring to the process. That's what I think we are, even in my team, that's what exactly we are thinking about. Okay, you have the tools. I think in the previous conversations, that tool set, mindset, skill set, right? So there is a tool set out there, whether you really wanted to use it for real use case. If you are not doing that, I think you cannot justify, even for the CEO, you cannot justify that. So that's the use case we are finding. We are adding value. Is it really needed for agents to do this job? If not, I don't think we are trying to do that. That's what my opinion is.
Yeah, I think, I've generally adopted an experimentation mindset, like even before the advent of some of these latest developments in Gen AI and Agentic AI. And I think I'd say distinguish two kinds of features or products that we introduce. One that's customer facing. These will generally go through some sort of an A/B test. And then anything that's not customer facing, we try to apply this counterfactual or synthetic control based evaluation to see like what the experience would have been without using these Gen AI models or agentic AI systems. And holding ourselves to the bar that this is clearly adding value. I think virtually every decision that we are making, whether it's vendor procurement or developing new models, all of those go through these lens. I wouldn't say we necessarily have the metrics perfected for each and every case, but at least we have the framework in place.
Yeah, so just to add to on that, I think the million-dollar question is how you measure the output. I don't think we have a good solution. I'm curious to see if any company actually has come up with a clear definition of how to measure output. I do know that Anthropic, OpenAI, they do not measure the output, yet. Right? So a lot of this is like we're still looking at the inputs. I don't think we can ignore the input metrics. I think that signals a culture change. Maybe the fundamental capability change. But on the other hand, I do think like. There's actually a lot of sort of assumptions that tech companies have made. I'm just going to pick one. Like the last 3 companies I've worked for, all just took a decision to take a few years to decompose a monolithic code base. Right? In the AI first world, is that actually necessary? If you're building these code bases for humans versus for agents, the answer might be different. So like there are these fundamental assumptions that I think we've been operating in this industry, like nobody's challenging that. And I think there, like getting to the certain maturity level, as you mentioned, across the company, right, getting all functions having the necessary capabilities. But like I agree, like we need to move away from creating perverse incentives. Right, so like internally, we're no longer tracking like AI token usage. We know the spend is shooting through the roof. We're actually asking people to use more responsibly. Instead of tracking token usage, we're actually looking at AI session time. Still gameable, but less so.
Yeah, the only thing which I can add over here is the thing which we could measure as inputs is the velocity in which we are rolling out things on site, right? And number of A/B tests you are doing per quarter, has that increased by like 10, 15, 20%? Like those are some of the input metrics which we have started looking at on our end, just to make sure that the investments which we are making in terms of training, the tokens, is it justified?
All right, thank you. Or did you want to jump in?
No, I think all the good points have been made, so I think we could.
Awesome. All right, well, one more time for our panel. Let's have you guys stay. Yeah, give them a hand.